1. So in September, I started working in a small bookstore, part of a bigger chain. The first months until December, everything was great. The place, the co-workers, even the customers. However, in the beginning of December, a colleague wanted to move from a big shopping center to our bookstore. My boss asked me if I'd be okay if we switched places, and I said that it's fine by me, thinking I'd do well, even though I was afraid I would suck due to the size of the shopping center. The bookstore there is big as hell, and it's the only bookstore in the entire shopping center, so a lot of people come in. Despite all that, I was optimistic until I started working there. I am an extrovert, but despite that, dealing with 10 people talking to you at the same time was impossible for me. I managed, though, and the customers always told me I was nice, helpful, and kind, even if I didn't have the item in stock. The problem this time were my co-workers. There were about 10 people working there, including me. There is, however, a group of 4 girls who are your typical high school drama-type mean girls. And they're honestly the worst type of mean girls I've seen, both outside and inside high school. My downfall began when I saw an email from one of those girls to my boss. When closing, we must send an email to the boss telling her of the money we made that day, and if something happened during the day she should know about. The latter is, however, optional. While this girl was writing it, I thought I saw my name. I was confused, but thought nothing of it, since my name is very common, and naively assumed they were talking about a regular customer, but nope. Next day I open the email, and there's a whole paragraph dedicated to me, and how I failed to give a customer the type of tape they wanted. No, not the tape. It was the double-sided kind. Indeed, I failed, but proceeded to apologize, saying, and I remember my exact words, "Ah, crap, I'm so stupid, sorry," albeit with slightly harsher language. In the email, however, the girl says how I asked her what does she mean, and how I never have seen this type of tape. Yeah, that's a lie. Sure, I effed up, but apologized. After seeing this, I wrote to the girl. I was thinking about confronting her face to face, but thought against it, since there were a lot of customers with no time for talking, really. I firmly asked her that she tells me things directly. I quickly forgot about the incident, and she didn't tell me it bothered her that much. Instead of writing an email, because I think we are adults, and this is the proper way to communicate, right? I was left on scene. Then, lo and behold, I see another email how me and another co-worker were talking too much. This time I intentionally checked the emails. I also found another email about co-workers and how they weren't doing their job. Basically, everyone who isn't in their group isn't doing their job properly, while all of them are working their butts off to compensate for the others. A paraquote from an email. Indeed, I did a ton of stupid stuff while I worked in the shopping center. I accidentally gave a customer a book for free, marked that the customer had purchased an item by debit card when they had paid in cash, wasn't sure where some items are, and so much more. I completely take the blame for that. However, never did that during my time in the smaller bookstore, and my boss had even said I was doing pretty well there. I explained to her that I can't do it, and asked to be returned to the other bookstore in January. She never asked me anything and said she'll move me back. I was happy and thinking that I'd just have to go through this, and then I'll be back. Then it got from, "Yeah, I'll take you back," to, "I'll take you back if your schedule aligns with the other people working there." Until I said I was quitting, and she told me, "Good, 'cause I was gonna fire you anyways." Huh? Sure, I effed up. I really did. But did this 1 month in a bookstore I was not familiar with at all, and is 10 times bigger than the one I started working with, during the most stressful time of the year with colleagues who obviously didn't like me, erase my progress from the other bookstore. I tried to communicate, to explain that I can't do it. By the way, my boss said, "Yeah, we'll talk about this later." We never did. Colleagues from my old bookstore have told me how my boss is bad-mouthing me in front of them, saying things she never even mentioned to me. She had told them I'm ambitious but problematic in the beginning of December, but never really mentioned this to me, and I really thought I was doing okay. She gave me a raise several days before telling me I was problematic, and in those several days nothing had happened. I'm pretty patient and calm, but this seems unethical to me. Sure, she wasn't always mean. At some point I said how I was stupid, and she told me not to speak that way about myself, which I appreciate. And I did screw up, but why is she tolerating emails and colleagues talking bad about everyone else but their group? I don't understand it. I really don't. If you reached the end, thanks a lot. Again, I'm sure I did a ton of mess-ups, but I just didn't want to do anything, especially since I saw the first email. Am I in the wrong here? Hellfreezer's note. I'd make a point of contacting HR, and I'm assuming both of these bookstores have different managers. It's not one manager managing both. I was a little unsure of that in the story. I know it can happen, but I'd contact whoever is above them and make the request to be moved to them. It definitely sounds like there's some favoritism going on there. I mean, we all make mistakes, and as you say, you're in a bigger environment during a very busy time of year. It would take time to adjust. It would take anyone time to adjust. 2. 10 years ago, I got my first job as a cashier at an international supermarket. It's one of 2 stores, and people come from all over the US to come shop at this place. We dubbed it the Disney World of grocery stores. But you can imagine, just like Disney World, this place has some messed up stuff happening behind the scenes that as a customer you just wouldn't know. So, there was an AGM, Donald. He was known for walking around the store giving people a hard time and sitting in his office. We had a pretty good relationship though, and he eventually hired me to work in the natural foods department. The department wasn't profitable, and the owner was about to tear it down and make more room for the herbal remedy shop. Over the next several years, I helped build the department alongside vendors and customers, getting products the customers want, and turning the department around alongside just one other co-worker and my boss. Things were looking up, and I was proud of the work we'd accomplished. But then my boss gets transferred to another location to help their natural foods department. In comes my boss from the front end when I worked on Register, Todd. Todd was hired from Sam's Club and had a very boxed-in corporate way of going about things. I had finally gotten away from this guy, but here he is, now my boss again. So one day I'm working with a customer who I had previously had a relationship with, and we're putting together a $40 case sale of crackers for a customer. I look over my shoulder and Donald is motioning his finger at me to come talk to him. He starts yelling at me. "You don't need to be talking to her, you need to get back to work." As I'm trying to explain I was working, and he doesn't let me say anything. I slam the drink I'm holding on the ground and it explodes and I walk away. And he comes around the corner stuttering, "Now, if you want to act like that, you know where the door is. This is retail. Every place is like this." And stomps away. In this moment I'm speechless. I couldn't even explain what I was doing talking to her in the first place. Donald had never treated me like this before. A few minutes pass, and I run back to catch up with him. He has this menacing grin on his face, and I go up to him and tell him, ever since I started here, all I wanted to do was help. He looks surprised and he's a little taken aback, and he says, "That's fine, but you don't need to be talking to her." And I tell him he didn't even let me explain what I was talking to her about. We were selling a case of crackers. And this is when I start to raise my voice. You see, Donald had previously told me his deepest, darkest fear one day when we were in his office. What other people thought about him. He had told me a customer went nuclear on him and made a scene over him eating a grape. And so, with this knowledge, I start shouting. "You don't need to talk to people like that. There's a better way to talk to people." After a crowd starts forming around us, Donald starts gesturing with his hands saying, "Hey now, settle down now." And here comes Todd, who strolls up to the conversation like, "Hey, what's going on, guys?" And I immediately tell him, "Get the F out of here." And he turns right back around and walks away. Donald and I talk for a little while longer about how to treat employees, and finally, at the end of the conversation, he says, "So, you're gonna get back to work?" I laugh in his face and tell him no. I'm leaving and not coming back. And I punch out mid-shift and drive to Arby's and get a beef and cheddar. Fast forward to my second job. I got a job at a health food store about 10 minutes away. However, this company was being horribly managed, and after only 2 months working at this job, we were forced to close the store. But to add insult to injury, during the final week of closing and selling out the merchandise, in comes Donald and Todd. They announced to everyone that if they want a job at the international supermarket, come work for them. Ironically, our district manager was at our store that day helping place employees at different stores. And I told him who these guys were, and he storms out of the office and starts screaming at them, "Get the hell out of my store and don't come back!" I worked with that company for another 3 years, traveling to different stores and helping them get failing stores back on track. It was a great feeling knowing your DM has your back. Did anybody else have a crazy first job? 3. I had a couple of really good customers last night. Saw very few of my regulars because the weather's been bonkers. Which makes these ones being so nice an anomaly, first, and a really nice bonus second for bothering coming in at all with the snow. Customer 1. We were bitching about butter prices together, and I said, "Damn, if it's going to be this much, it better be coming from a golden Jersey. Get that good fat." And she goes, "Yes, honestly." After we started dogging on how awfully hyperactive and naughty Jerseys can be. Love living in a village, man. Quality conversation I couldn't have anywhere else. Customer 2. Regular light. We were joking about how he's a troublemaker and his wife should sell him to the circus. He says, "She tried. They sent me back." Just really funny stuff. Mentioned he's busted up his knee. He's got a brace on. And said, "Yeah, the missy stuck a hammer to me." Joking around, and I said, "Oh, she gave you the Kathy Bates special." And we got to talking about Kathy Bates and how we're both watching the new Matlock and how surprised we were by how good it was and how skinny she's gotten. I'm not a fan of wife-bad humor, but his wife is just as in on it as he is, and you can tell how much they love each other, so I don't mind playing around with them. Customer 3. Honestly, we just talked about the Saw movies for way too long, and I felt kind of bad about it. It wasn't busy, and we had another line open, and my co-cashier didn't mind at all. But I'm an anxious mess, so I was overthinking it a little. Turned him on to Saw 10. He thought it was going to be mid-series level schlock, but was excited to hear it was actually really good. Unfortunately, he has the wrong apprentice opinions, but nobody's perfect. Customer number 4. There's a barn in the boonies of my village with a name on it. A funky little quasi-German surname. And when I was having trouble settling on a surname of a character in a writing project of mine, I gave him that surname, so now I love driving past that barn and seeing it. Anyway, a woman came in, and when I ran her benefits card, her name popped up, and lo and behold, she's a quasi-German surname. I asked if there's any relation, and it turns out her brother owns it. She was tickled to hear I borrowed their name and said she was going to tell her brother, and that he was going to love that. Small villages, man. Honorable mention. A few of my co-workers aren't actually from the village and come from out of town, so we get to talking sometimes. I'll mention something I take for granted, and they're surprised or interested, and say they're going to go check it out, and I just love that. I love out-of-towners not having the insider knowledge we do, and getting to experience these things for the first time with utter joy. Genuinely exciting and endearing. Last night, a co-worker of mine who was an out-of-towner thanked me for mentioning our village Christmas display before they took it down. She thought it was creepy as hell. We all do. But really fun to go around looking at all the figures. Yesterday was probably the first shift I've had in a long time where it was just a good shift. No customers to complain about. It was easy, not too slow, not too fast. Managers were actually helping on the floor. I was working with some of my favorite people. Really, it was the shift of my dreams after a recent loss in the family, so the retail gods must be looking out for me. I needed that positivity for real. 4. I've been working in a corner store for about a month now. It's my first real job, as earlier I've been doing some commissions for friends and babysitting for family. So me and my coworker open the store, and immediately a lady storms in. Mind you, this was 6 a.m., and I'm pretty sure that she'd been waiting before we even came in, 15 minutes before opening, to prepare the store. She points at me and yells, "You!" and asks if I remember her. I didn't. I have over 500 clients a day coming through the store in my shifts. She said that she was buying cigarettes from me yesterday, and that she paid with a 200 zloty bill. For context, it's about 7 hours of minimum wage work, when she was buying cigarettes. It still didn't narrow it down. We have lots of clients who do that. She tells me that she actually gave me 2 bills by accident, claiming they were stuck together and she didn't notice it then, and that I have robbed her of those 200 złota and she wants it back. At that point my coworker took over. I had no idea how to even respond, and she even told the lady that we can't just give her the money and that she should come back in about 3 hours because then our boss will come in and she could review the security footage and solve the issue. The lady kept arguing at that point I'd be gone, I wouldn't, and that she would have to take a day off at her own job, but eventually she left. She came back at 9 a.m., stood directly in front of the register and just stared at me angrily. I told her that my boss isn't there yet, and she just told me, "I'll wait," and continued on staring at me, blocking the way to the register. Finally, my boss came in. She showed that lady documentation from the end of my shift, that when I was counting cash I didn't have additional money, and she showed security footage from when that lady was in a day before, where it was clearly shown that I hadn't handled an additional bill that I could have not noticed or steal. The lady started arguing that I must have stolen the money for myself. She was shown the footage of me again, where she could see that I didn't steal the money. She started yelling at me that I should just admit that I've stolen it. She also says that she knows her truth, and that my boss has her own opinion, but she wants her money back. Again, she was provided with solid proof that I didn't steal the money. After some back and forth, she was told that she's welcome to call the police if she wants to, so she finally left, yelling at me that I'm dishonest and that the money I've stolen isn't worth it. She never came back or called the cops. Well, now I get paranoid every time a customer that vaguely resembles her comes in, but I'm glad the boss and evidence were on my side, and that I didn't actually miss that bill by accident, both when she was paying and when I was counting the money. If it wasn't clear, I didn't steal the money or any money from a customer or a cash register, or from anywhere else, just so we're double clear. 5. I don't know if I'm really asking for advice because I honestly don't know what the answer is. I just really need to vent and know if anybody else can relate to this, which I'm sure you can. I decided to go back to school for my bachelor's degree a little bit later on in life, and I graduated in May. I'm 30. For a few years, I was working as a front desk receptionist in a medical office, and then they sold to a different company and things got a little weird. I wasn't being paid, and then they let a bunch of us go and close their doors. So I desperately needed a job, and I found a relatively small boutique that was hiring by me, and I decided to apply just as a regular retail associate. I truly just wanted it as a way to make money while I was going to school, and until I could find another job. I made it pretty well known that it was just a temporary thing for me. However, I guess it could have been because of my age or other experience, but they decided to offer me a manager position, stating I'd be making $2 more an hour, and that it was still very part-time, as the stores don't really allow for full-time work. I decided I would just take it because I have been applying to other jobs, and I just needed something until I was done with school and found something else. Well, it has literally turned into the job from hell. We were so unbelievably short-staffed, and my manager is extremely passive-aggressive. She micromanages, and she genuinely thinks that this part-time retail job should be my lifelong dream. Things constantly get added to my workload, like she likes to pop into the store and ridicule everything. Meanwhile, we text her regularly, giving her updates, because that's what she wants. Today it feels like I'm constantly at work or thinking about work because they're always texting in a group. On my days off, I'm expected to respond back or react to the text. I'm expected to comment on their Instagram post anytime they post. They're constantly making Zoom meetings outside of work hours that take over an hour long. She is constantly asking if I can come in on days where I can't, because I do a freelance writing job, hoping to build my portfolio. And then she complains, saying that nobody is a team player or nobody is dedicated to the job if we can't come in on our days off. I hate being a manager, and I wish I had never agreed to take that position because it's been one of the worst decisions I've ever made. I'm sorry that this is so long. I just had a whole day with her yesterday because she decided to pop in unannounced. And now she's texting me and my other manager telling us how we should get together on one of our days off and go to the storage unit and rearrange it. The other manager also has another job, because this also wasn't supposed to be her lifelong plan. I'm not trying to sound rude, I just feel like I was kind of lied to about this job, and I really never wanted to be this engrossed in it, for it to be this serious of a job for me. I just don't know what to do, because I'm feeling very burnt out, and I've been applying to jobs constantly that have to do with my degree. And I either hear nothing back or get denied. I'm just getting to a point where I feel a little depressed, because I don't feel happy to wake up and go to work. I'm constantly on edge, and I would just like a job at this point, where I feel I'm making a difference and can actually be paid a decent amount to get PTO and health benefits. On the latest Zoom meeting, she was saying that if any of us don't like working here anymore, we can quit by giving her a month notice, so that she can find someone to replace us. Is it bad that if I found something else, I was only planning on giving 2 weeks? Anyway, thanks for listening to this. I hope you all have a great day. Hellfreezer's note. Firstly, I would check the laws where you are to see what you are legally required to give her as notice. If it's nothing, don't give her anything. If it is only 2 weeks, only give her 2 weeks. Also, this is what I want you to do. Keep a note of every Zoom meeting off the clock. Every time she tries to get you to do anything related to the business when you're not actually being paid to be there. Then send her a bill for all your hours when you're done. Because Zoom meetings are still work. If it's business related, you should be getting paid for them. And I'm quite sure she wasn't planning to pay either of you for rearranging the storage on your day off either. This woman is what we in the UK call a chancer. I don't think you should feel bad about having any negative feelings about the situation you're in. But keep your chin up, keep applying, and understand constant rejection is a thing. For example, I frequently apply for audiobook auditions on ACX. I've had nothing but rejections, to the point I took a bit of a break for a while. But I'm about to put on my butt-kicking boots and get back in there and start auditioning yet again. And I'll keep doing that until people start hiring me. Because that's the way of the future for me. I'm a voice actor / YouTuber, and that is what I want to do in life. Well, I have other things I want to do, but professionally, that's kind of where I'm at right now. So don't give up on your dreams, and eventually you'll get your foot in the door somewhere, and things will start to go right for you. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Adventures in Fast Food and Retail, episode 220. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. Before you go, please do hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already done so, and also support me on my Patreon page. As little as $1 or more a month really does help. Okay. No more business today, so let's move on to Hellfreezer's question of the day. And today's question is, if I've asked this before, can be quite a heavy question. When entertainers you enjoy turn out to be kind of sucky people, as in they've done illegal and immoral things to other human beings, do you continue to enjoy their work? Can you continue to enjoy their work? Or is there a limit for you? For example, I can still enjoy the works of Joss Whedon, although I think he sucks as a person. I can still read comics by Warren Ellis, although again, I think he sucks as a person. He needs to learn how to treat people better. And even John Barrowman, who's just a weird little guy. But I do have trouble enjoying the works of people like, lately in the news, Neil Gaiman, because he has, allegedly, committed actual crimes against other people. And the list of people that also applies to goes on and on and on and on. So for me, it really depends on the severity of what they have done, and I have a pretty relaxed attitude when it comes to the works of people who are no longer with us, because they can't benefit from that in any way. Let me know what you think in a comment below. And before we go, let's take a look at the answer of the day from a previous video. And today's answer comes from Fast Food and Retail 219, and this was fresh versus frozen vegetables. Today's answer comes from, let me see here, Miss Cat. Certain vegetables I prefer fresh, i.e. zucchini, celery, and tomatoes. Good choices all, yes, they're better fresh. And for the rest of the vegetables, I usually go for canned or frozen versions. To be honest, when it comes to fruits, I don't do a frozen version. The only exception is when I make agua de fresa cremosa and fresas con crema. In my opinion, it tastes pretty good with frozen strawberries. Thank you very much for your answer, Miss Cat. I do like the frozen fruit, except bananas. I always usually use fresh bananas, also because I have trouble finding frozen ones locally. But I do like the frozen fruit when I'm making smoothies, because it helps them be nice and cool without having to add additional ice. And with that, I'm going to head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.